"I know how to save your daughter," said the beggar boy to the millionaire. Catherine Williams couldn't hold back her tears as she watched her only daughter hooked up to tubes and monitors in the most luxurious room at Mercy General Hospital in New York City. Emma, just 8 years old, was wasting away each day without the country's top specialists being able to identify what was happening to her. Then, a noise at the door made Catherine lift her swollen eyes from crying. Standing at the entrance was a dark-skinned boy, no older than 12, wearing tattered clothes and a faded olive-green shirt, staring intently at the bed where Emma lay. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" Catherine asked, startled, ready to call security. The boy remained still, his deep eyes shifting between Emma and Catherine. "I know how to save your daughter," he said with a conviction that didn't match his fragile appearance. Catherine jumped to her feet. "What did you say? Who let you in here?" she asked, her voice trembling between irritation and a sudden spark of hope. "My name is Jaden. I know your daughter from the park near your company. I know what's wrong with her and I can help," the boy said with unsettling confidence. Catherine froze. The park near her beauty company's headquarters was where Emma used to wait for her after school before business hours ended. Her assistant would take the girl there to play while Catherine finished her workday. "How do you—" Catherine began, but was interrupted when 2 security guards appeared, panting at the door. "Sorry, Mrs. Williams. This boy slipped in when a supply delivery arrived. We'll remove him right away," one of the men said, grabbing Jaden's arm. "Wait," Catherine said, surprising herself. Something in the boy's gaze made her hesitate. In the 27 days since Emma had first shown symptoms, none of the 5 specialists consulted had offered any real hope. "Let him stay for a moment." The guards exchanged confused glances but obeyed, positioning themselves outside the room. Catherine stepped closer to the boy, taking in his worn clothes, unevenly cut short hair, and scuffed sneakers. "What do you know about my daughter?" she asked, keeping her voice low so as not to wake Emma. Jaden looked at the girl in the hospital bed, her small body frail and pale. "She used to give me water from her bottle. She always talked to me when I sold candy at the park. One day, she said the water from the new fountain tasted strange, but you had told her to drink water often. After that, she never came back," Jaden explained. A shiver ran down Catherine's spine. It was true. She had insisted Emma stay hydrated, especially during that scorching July summer in New York City. The city had installed new drinking fountains in several parks, including the one near her company. "How do you know this is connected to her illness?" Catherine asked, trying to stay skeptical despite her growing curiosity. "My grandmother was a healer in a village in Appalachia. She taught me about plants and poisons. The way your daughter looks," he pointed to Emma's pale face, the deep circles under her eyes, her chapped lips. "It looks like heavy metal poisoning. I've seen it happen in my neighborhood when the water was contaminated." Just then, Dr. Richard Thompson, the lead physician on Emma's team, entered the room and stopped abruptly at the sight of Jaden. "What's going on here? Who is this boy?" he asked sternly. Before Catherine could answer, movement from the hospital bed caught everyone's attention. Emma had slightly opened her eyes, and, for the first time in days, her hand moved toward Jaden. "Jay." The girl's voice was barely a whisper. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. It was Emma's first conscious reaction in nearly a week. Dr. Thompson nervously adjusted his expensive tie and stepped closer to the bed. "This is unacceptable. That boy needs to leave immediately. We're in a sterile, controlled environment. His presence could compromise the entire experimental treatment we're—" "What experimental treatment?" Catherine cut in, turning to face the doctor. "You told me it was just supportive care while we waited for the test results sent to Switzerland." The doctor cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "Well, they're advanced support protocols, some substances that may help stabilize her condition while we await a definitive diagnosis." Jaden, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "You're giving her medicine without knowing what's wrong?" Dr. Thompson shot the boy a furious look. "I won't discuss medical procedures with a—" He paused, measuring his words under Catherine's attentive gaze. "With an unauthorized visitor. Mrs. Williams, I insist you consider transferring Emma to the clinic in Switzerland as we suggested. Her condition is critical, and we need resources only available there. Catherine looked at her daughter, then at Jayden, and finally at the doctor. In her nearly 20 years leading Williams Beauty, she had developed a sixth sense for when someone was hiding something, and at that moment, that sense was screaming. "Doctor, I appreciate your concern, but I'd like a few minutes alone. With my daughter and—" She hesitated for a moment. Her friend. The doctor opened his mouth to protest, but Catherine's determined expression made him step back. "As you wish. I'll be in the doctor's lounge if you need me. But I urge you to consider the transfer. The private jet is ready and we can leave as early as tomorrow." When the doctor left, Catherine turned to Jayden. "You said you know how to help my daughter. How?" Jayden glanced at the door, making sure the doctor was gone. "I need to do a test first. Can you get some water from that drinking fountain in the park?" Catherine thought for a moment, then grabbed her phone and called her personal assistant, Jennifer. "Jennifer, I need you to go to Central Park immediately and collect water from the new drinking fountain, the one near the playground. Bring it straight to me at the hospital. It's urgent." While they waited, Jayden moved closer to Emma and gently held her hand. The girl, still with her eyes closed, seemed to relax at his touch. "How did you two meet?" Catherine asked, watching the interaction with a mix of curiosity and caution. "I sell candy in the park after school. Your daughter always stopped to talk to me. She's different from the other rich kids. Never treated me like you. Notice like I was less." Jayden's voice carried a maturity beyond his years. Catherine felt a pang of guilt. While she spent hours in meetings and business trips, her daughter had apparently formed a meaningful friendship with a street kid, something she knew nothing about. "Where do you live, Jayden? Do your parents know you're here?" An uncomfortable silence followed the question. "I live with my aunt in Riverdale Heights. My parents aren't around anymore. My aunt doesn't even know I left today. She works as a housekeeper and won't be back till night." Catherine nodded, unsure how to respond. Jayden's reality was so far from hers, despite living in the same city. 40 minutes later, Jennifer arrived with a bottle of water from the fountain. Jayden asked for a clean glass, which Catherine managed to get from a nurse. Carefully, the boy poured some water into the glass and pulled a small, worn cloth pouch from his pocket. "What's that?" Catherine asked, suddenly alert. "Herbs my grandma taught me to recognize. If there's metal in the water, they'll change color." Jayden opened the pouch and placed a few dried leaves into the water. Under Catherine's watchful gaze, the water slowly began turning yellowish. "See?" Jayden pointed to the glass. "There's something wrong with this water. Probably lead or another heavy metal. The new pipes must be contaminated." Catherine stared in disbelief at the glass, then at her unconscious daughter. "But how is that possible? Doesn't the city test the water before installing the fountains?" "They should, but—" Jayden shrugged. "In my neighborhood, a lot of people got sick when they put in new pipes. No one cared because we were poor. My grandma saved a lot of people with her herbs." Catherine felt a mix of anger and determination rising inside her. If what Jayden said was true, her daughter was a victim of the authorities' negligence, and possibly something even worse from the medical team, who seemed more interested in using Emma as a test subject for experimental treatments than actually finding the cause of her illness. "Those herbs from your grandma, can they help Emma?" she asked, hope clear in her voice. Jayden looked at the sleeping girl. "They can. My grandma taught me how to make a remedy that cleanses the body of this kind of poison, but I need the right herbs and time to prepare, and—" He hesitated. "The doctors won't let me give it to her. They don't believe in natural remedies." Catherine Williams straightened her shoulders, the posture of a woman used to making tough decisions and facing resistance. "I'm her mother, and I have the final say in her treatment. If you can help my daughter, I'll make sure no one interferes." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. That same night, while Dr. Thompson insisted on transferring Emma to Switzerland, Catherine demanded specific tests for heavy metal contamination. The doctor tried to dissuade her, arguing it was a waste of time and resources. But the businesswoman's determination left no room for debate. While they waited for the results, Jaden explained he'd need specific herbs to prepare the remedy that could help Emma. Catherine immediately mobilized her personal assistant. "Jennifer, I need you to find all these plants, no matter the cost or where you have to go to get them. And I need everything by tonight," she ordered, handing over a list written by Jaden. Meanwhile, in the hospital room, Jaden spent hours by Emma's side, talking to her, even though she was unconscious most of the time. In rare moments of clarity, she smiled when she saw her friend. During one of these vigils, Sarah, the night shift nurse caring for Emma, quietly entered the room. "It's sweet how much you care for her," the nurse remarked, watching Jaden hold the girl's hand. "She was kind to me when no one else was," the boy replied, not taking his eyes off Emma. Sarah checked the patient's vitals and made a few notes before turning to Jaden. "You know, I've worked here over 20 years, and I've never seen Dr. Thompson so invested in a case. He usually just shows up for mandatory rounds, but with Emma, he's here all the time, adjusting meds, taking notes. It's strange." Jaden looked at the nurse. "Do you think he's doing something wrong?" Sarah hesitated, checking that the door was closed before answering in a low voice. "I shouldn't be saying this, but some of the medications he's administering don't match the preliminary diagnosis. When I questioned him, he said it was part of a special protocol. But in 30 years of nursing, I've never seen this protocol." The conversation was interrupted when the door opened and Catherine walked in carrying a small box. "We got everything you asked for, Jaden," she said, handing the box to the boy. Sarah quickly went back to checking the equipment, pretending they hadn't discussed anything suspicious. Before leaving, she gave Jaden a meaningful look. With the herbs in hand, Jaden asked permission to use a small lab on the lower floor of Mercy General Hospital, where pharmacists prepared special medications. Thanks to Catherine's influence, the request was granted, despite Dr. Thompson's protests. As Jaden prepared the natural remedy, Catherine received the test results she had requested. Her face paled as she read the report. Elevated levels of lead, arsenic, and mercury detected in the patient's blood, indicating possible heavy metal poisoning. She immediately called a meeting with the medical team, placing the report on the conference room table. "I want explanations. Why weren't these tests done before?" she demanded, staring at each doctor present. Dr. Thompson cleared his throat, visibly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Williams, these results aren't conclusive. The type of dehydration and weakness your daughter is experiencing can cause fluctuations in various blood elements. We need more tests to—" "Enough stalling!" Catherine slammed the table, making everyone jump. "My daughter has been poisoned for weeks, and instead of finding the cause, you've been giving her experimental medications that could be making her condition worse." At that moment, the door opened and Dr. William Peterson, the hospital director, entered with a grave expression. "Catherine, may we speak privately?" he asked, gesturing toward the door. In the hallway, the director confirmed Catherine's darkest suspicions. "We're conducting an internal investigation. It appears Dr. Thompson is involved in an unauthorized study on experimental treatments for heavy metal poisoning. He has financial incentives from a pharmaceutical company to test new compounds." Catherine felt her blood boil. "Are you telling me my daughter is being used as a guinea pig?" Her voice trembled with restrained fury. "I'm afraid so. And the worst part is, the medications he's testing may worsen symptoms before improving them to make the treatment's effectiveness seem more dramatic." Meanwhile, in the small lab, Jaden finished preparing the natural remedy under the curious gaze of the pharmacists. His small but steady hands ground, mixed, and filtered the herbs with a precision that impressed the professionals. "My grandmother used to say medicine only works if the person making it has good intentions," he explained, noticing he was being watched. When he was done, Jaden took the vial containing a greenish liquid to Emma's room, where he found Catherine in tears, sitting beside her daughter. "I found out the doctor was using Emma to test new drugs," she explained, furiously wiping her tears. "He's been suspended and they're starting legal action against him." Jaden approached the bed. "The medicine is ready. It'll help draw the poison from her body." Catherine looked at the liquid with a mix of hope and apprehension. "Are you sure this will help? It won't harm her. My grandmother used this same remedy to save many people in my community." It cleanses the blood and strengthens the body to expel the poison, Jaden replied with unshakable conviction. With Dr. Peterson's approval and under Nurse Sarah's supervision, Emma began receiving small doses of the natural remedy alongside conventional treatment for heavy metal poisoning. The first few days were tense, with little sign of improvement. Catherine practically moved into the hospital, working remotely from a small makeshift office in the next room. Jaden, in turn, was granted special permission to stay at the hospital, resting in a small doctor's lounge when he wasn't with Emma. On the fourth day of treatment, as Jaden told stories about his grandmother and medicinal plants, Emma opened her eyes and, for the first time in weeks, spoke clearly. "I knew you'd help me, Jay." The news of Emma's improvement spread quickly through the hospital. The doctors, initially skeptical of the natural treatment, began showing interest in Jaden's formula. Dr. Peterson suggested analyzing the remedy to identify its active components and possibly integrate it into the formal treatment of similar cases. While Emma improved day by day, Catherine faced another challenge, uncovering the source of the contamination. Following Jaden's intuition, she hired an independent company to test the water from the park's drinking fountains. The results confirmed their suspicions. The new fountains installed by the city used low-quality components with high levels of heavy metals that contaminated the water. The case gained media attention, and investigations revealed other children had also been affected, though with milder symptoms. A month after treatment began, Emma was finally discharged from the hospital. Her recovery would still require care, but the doctors were optimistic about a full recovery with no lasting effects. On the day of her discharge, Catherine found Jaden sitting alone in the waiting room, clutching a worn-out backpack. "You saved my daughter," she said, sitting beside the boy. "I'll never be able to thank you enough." Jaden looked at her, his eyes reflecting wisdom beyond his years. "I just knew what my grandmother taught me. She always said knowledge only matters if you use it to help others." Catherine took a deep breath, making a decision she'd been considering for days. "I spoke with your aunt. I know she's doing her best, but she's struggling. I offered to help so you both can have better conditions and so you can attend a good school." Jaden seemed surprised. "You talked to my aunt?" "Yes. She told me about your struggles, how you help at home, how you dropped out of school to sell candy." Catherine paused. "She also told me how you keep every book you find, especially the ones about plants and natural medicine." The boy lowered his eyes, visibly moved. "I wanted to be a doctor someday, like the ones who cared for my grandmother at the clinic before she passed, but I know it's just a dream." Catherine placed a hand on his shoulder. "It doesn't have to be just a dream. I want to help you make it happen, not just out of gratitude, but because the world needs doctors who can bridge traditional medicine and ancestral plant knowledge." Just then, Emma appeared in a wheelchair, pushed by Nurse Sarah, her face still pale but with a radiant smile. "Jay," she exclaimed, reaching out to her friend. Jaden rushed to her and the two embraced as Catherine watched with tears in her eyes. That street kid, whom many would overlook, had not only saved her daughter but also opened her eyes to a reality she, in her privileged bubble, had never truly seen. In the following months, everyone's lives changed drastically. Jaden and his aunt moved to a better apartment, close to Catherine and Emma's home. The boy went back to school, attending a private school on a full scholarship, while on weekends he continued learning more about medicinal plants. Catherine, in turn, created a foundation dedicated to researching natural medicines and ensuring proper treatment for children from underprivileged communities exposed to environmental contaminants. Jaden and Emma's story inspired the project, which quickly gained national recognition. The case of the contaminated water fountains led to a broader investigation, uncovering a corruption scheme involving the supplier company and City Hall employees. Those responsible were removed, and a new water quality monitoring program was implemented in the city. As for Dr. Thompson, he lost his medical license and faced charges for unethical conduct and unauthorized experimentation. His brilliant career ended in disgrace, a reminder that no scientific advancement justifies putting patients at risk. A year after Emma's discharge, Catherine organized a special celebration, bringing together everyone involved in the girl's recovery. During the event, she announced the creation of an ethnobotanical research center, inspired by Jaden's grandmother's knowledge, which would be built in a preserved area on the outskirts of New York City. This center will be a place where traditional knowledge and modern science can meet and strengthen each other, she explained, moved. And I'm pleased to announce that the first project will be led by a partnership between NYU researchers and traditional healers from different regions of the United States. Jaden, now 13 and a top student at school, watched everything with a mix of pride and humility. His dream of becoming a doctor seemed closer than ever, and the knowledge he had inherited from his grandmother was being valued in a way he never thought possible. Emma, fully recovered, became a vocal advocate for environmental preservation and public health, using her experience to raise awareness among other children about the importance of these issues. The friendship between her and Jaden grew even stronger, uniting two worlds that might otherwise never have met. On a sunny afternoon, as they walked through the park where it all began, now with new, safe water fountains installed, Emma asked Jaden, "Have you ever thought that if I hadn't gotten sick, maybe we would have never really met?" Jaden thought for a moment. "My grandma always said there are no coincidences, that everything happens for a reason, even the bad things. Like how what happened to me helped other people who didn't even know they were being poisoned." Emma added, understanding. "Exactly. Sometimes we have to go through hard things so we can help others later." Jaden smiled, watching children from different backgrounds playing together on the same playground where he used to sell candy. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 years had passed since the hospital incident. Life had settled into a new rhythm for everyone involved. Catherine had drastically reduced her hours at Williams Beauty, delegating more responsibilities to her directors so she could focus on the foundation and, most importantly, her daughter. The experience of nearly losing Emma had reshaped her priorities in a way no leadership course or therapy ever had before. One Sunday morning, as Catherine was making breakfast, the phone rang. It was Sarah, the nurse who had cared for Emma during her hospitalization and now worked at the foundation. "Catherine, we need you at the research center. Something's happened that you need to see for yourself," said Sarah, her voice urgent but not alarmed. Intrigued, Catherine drove to the Grandma Ruth Center for Ethnobotanical Research, named in honor of Jaden's grandmother, bringing Emma and Jaden, who was spending the weekend at her house as often happened. When they arrived, they were greeted by a team of visibly excited researchers. Dr. Michael Bennett, the project's lead scientist, could barely contain his excitement as he explained, "We tested the compound derived from Jaden's original formulation against samples of cells affected by different types of heavy metals. The results are extraordinary. The compound not only neutralizes the toxic effects, but also seems to regenerate damaged tissue at a level no conventional treatment can achieve." Catherine looked at Jaden, who listened with wide eyes. "What does this mean in practice?" she asked. "It means we have the potential to develop a revolutionary treatment for heavy metal poisoning, especially in children, whose bodies are more vulnerable," the scientist explained. "And the most impressive part is that the side effects are minimal, unlike the synthetic chelators currently in use." One of the younger researchers on the team stepped forward with a folder. "The most fascinating thing is that we've identified 3 active compounds in the herbs that had never been documented before in scientific literature. We're calling one of them Jadenol, in honor of the person who introduced us to these plants." Jaden blushed deeply, unsure how to react to such an honor. "My grandmother deserves this recognition, not me," he said humbly. "And that's why the other 2 compounds will be named after her and the community where this knowledge came from," Dr. Bennett assured him. "We're documenting the entire history and ensuring that credit and any potential benefits are shared with your community." The news of the discovery quickly spread beyond the research center's walls. Within months, universities around the world expressed interest in collaborating on the project. The World Health Organization reached out, eager to develop protocols that could be implemented in poor regions affected by environmental contamination. For Jaden, now 15, the recognition brought both responsibilities and opportunities. He was invited to international conferences to share not only the knowledge inherited from his grandmother, but also his vision for uniting modern science and traditional wisdom. The relationship between Jaden and Emma grew into a deep friendship, built on mutual respect and a shared experience few could understand. As he prepared to enter medical school, his dream now closer than ever, she discovered a passion for biology and was determined to follow in her mother's footsteps by managing the foundation in the future. Catherine, watching them both grow, often reflected on how a near tragedy had transformed into something so positive for so many. Her beauty company, inspired by the foundation's work, now heavily invested in ethically sourced natural ingredients, working directly with traditional communities to honor their ancestral knowledge. During the celebration of the foundation's 3rd anniversary, an event bringing together scientists, officials, and representatives from traditional communities, Catherine was approached by a humble-looking woman. "Are you the mother of the girl my nephew Jaden saved?" she asked, visibly emotional. "Yes, I am." "You must be Aunt Brenda, Jaden's aunt," Catherine smiled, recognizing her from the photos she had seen. The woman nodded, gripping Catherine's hands tightly. "I came to thank you, not just for everything you've done for my nephew, but because thanks to you, my mother's work didn't die with her." Catherine felt a lump in her throat. "Aunt Brenda, it's us who should be thanking you. Your mother, through Jaden, didn't just save my daughter. She's saving many other children around the world. The knowledge she passed down to him is an invaluable treasure." Jaden's aunt discreetly wiped away a tear. "My mother always said that knowledge kept to yourself is like a seed never planted. It's useless. She'd be so happy to see the seeds she planted bearing fruits she never even imagined." That evening, during the Foundation's gala dinner, Catherine invited Aunt Brenda to join Jaden on stage to receive a special tribute. Before an emotional audience, she announced the creation of a scholarship program for young people from traditional communities interested in medicine and pharmacology. The Grandma Ruth Seeds program will ensure that other talented children like Jaden have the opportunity to combine their traditional knowledge with formal education, bridging worlds that have long remained apart, Catherine explained, to enthusiastic applause. Jaden, standing on stage beside his aunt, looked out at the crowd with a mix of pride and humility. His gaze met Emma's in the front row, who encouraged him with a radiant smile. Beside her, several children who had benefited from the Foundation's treatments clapped excitedly. On impulse, Jaden asked for the microphone. "I just want to say none of this would have been possible if a rich girl hadn't decided to talk to a poor boy in the park. Emma treated me as an equal when many didn't even see me. Because of that, when she got sick, I knew I had to help, even though I thought I'd be thrown out of the hospital the moment I tried to step inside." He paused, emotional. "My grandmother always said the biggest revolutions start with small acts of kindness. This foundation, these discoveries, it all began when Emma offered me water from her bottle on a hot day in the park." Jaden's simple words deeply moved the audience. Many of the scientists and business people present, accustomed to thinking in terms of million-dollar budgets and cutting-edge research, were reminded that sometimes true innovation begins with a simple act of humanity. After the ceremony, a group of investors approached Catherine, interested in funding the expansion of the research center and the creation of a line of medicines based on traditional knowledge, with a guarantee that part of the profits would return to the original communities. It's as if the whole universe conspired to turn that terrible situation into something far greater than we could have imagined, Catherine remarked to Sarah as they watched Jaden being interviewed by a documentary crew eager to tell his story. "Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom to find the strongest foundation to rebuild something," replied the nurse, who had become a close friend of Catherine's. "I remember it like it was yesterday, that battered boy walking determinedly into Emma's room saying he knew how to save her. I thought it was just another security failure, but there was something about him, a certainty, a strength that didn't match his fragile appearance." "Life is made of unlikely encounters, isn't it?" Catherine reflected. "If Emma hadn't made a habit of talking to Jaden in the park, if I hadn't insisted she drink water, regularly if that water fountain hadn't been installed right there in that park, and if Thompson hadn't been greedy enough to use his own daughter as a test subject, maybe you'd never have paid attention to Jaden," added Sarah. "Ever practical. Even bad people have their role in this story." Catherine nodded thoughtfully. "How is Dr. Thompson, by the way? I heard he lost his license, but I didn't follow up after that." "He's working at a community clinic in the countryside as part of his alternative sentence," Sarah replied. "Ironically, it's a clinic that relies heavily on traditional knowledge. Because they lack the resources for industrialized medicine, maybe he'll learn something." 5 years after the hospital incident, the Williams Foundation had become a global leader in research bridging traditional knowledge and modern science. Jaden, now 18, was beginning his studies at NYU's School of Medicine on a full scholarship while continuing to collaborate with the Foundation's projects. Emma, now 13, had grown into a conscientious and engaged young woman, using her own experience to advocate for environmental and public health causes. Alongside Jaden, she participated in educational programs at public schools, sharing her story to inspire other children. During one of these visits to a public school on the outskirts of New York City, a little girl raised her hand after hearing their story. "If you two hadn't met in the park, a lot of people would still be getting poisoned without knowing it, right?" Jaden glanced at Emma before answering, "Yes, and that's why we should never ignore the people around us, no matter where they come from or how they dress. Everyone carries unique knowledge and talents." The teacher, visibly moved, added, "Jaden and Emma show us how socioeconomic differences shouldn't be barriers. One saved the other's life, and together they're helping save many more." After the talk, as they packed up their materials, Emma said to Jaden, "Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like if we'd never met." Jaden smiled. "Like, my grandma used to say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Maybe the universe knew we needed each other." "For someone so scientific, you've got a pretty mystical side," Emma teased. "Science and spirituality don't have to be opposites," he replied thoughtfully. "Maybe they're just different ways of understanding the same universe." As they left the school, a group of children ran up to them asking for autographs. For those kids from the outskirts, seeing someone like Jaden, who came from a reality much like theirs, achieve recognition and success without losing his roots was a powerful source of hope. One girl, about 9 years old, held Jaden's hand tightly after getting his autograph. "When I grow up, I want to be a doctor like you're going to be," she said, eyes shining. "And you will be," Jaden assured her. "If I could do it, so can you?" On the way home, Catherine, who had come to pick them up, noticed their contemplative silence. "Big day?" she asked. "Always," Emma replied, "but today a little girl said something that got me thinking. She said she wants to be a doctor like Jaden." "And what's wrong with that?" Catherine asked, confused. "Nothing's wrong. It just made me realize our story isn't just about how Jaden saved me or how we started the foundation. It's about inspiring others to believe they can make a difference, no matter where they come from." Catherine smiled, proud of her daughter's maturity. "You know what amazes me most about you two? How you turned a traumatic experience into something so positive and meaningful." Jaden, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "Mrs. Williams, remember when you asked me that first day at the hospital how I knew what Emma had? How could I forget? It was the most desperate and hopeful moment of my life at the same time. I wasn't completely sure. I'd seen similar cases, knew about the herbs that could help, but..." He hesitated. "There was also a lot of fear. What if I was wrong? What if it didn't work?" "But you didn't show that fear," Catherine observed. "I couldn't. Emma needed someone who believed there was a solution. So did you." Catherine reflected on that revelation. The 12-year-old boy who had burst into the hospital room carried not only the knowledge passed down from his grandmother, but also the courage to put that knowledge into practice, even knowing the risks. "Do you know what I learned from all this?" Jaden continued. "That sometimes we have to act even when we don't have all the answers or guarantees. The alternative was standing by and watching Emma get worse every day." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. 10 years had passed. The Grandma Ruth Center for Ethnobotanical Research had expanded to 3 locations in the United States and maintained partnerships with institutions in over 20 countries. The medicine developed from Jaden's original formula, now known as EthnoHeal, was used worldwide to treat heavy metal poisoning, saving thousands of lives every year. Jaden, now 23, was about to graduate from NYU with a degree in medicine, specializing in toxicology and traditional medicine. His exceptional performance had caught the attention of international universities, offering him scholarships for graduate studies. Yet his heart remained firmly tied to the United States and the work he had begun. It was a sunny Saturday morning when Jaden received a call from Catherine. "Jaden, we need you at the center urgently. There's a case that, well, you need to see it for yourself." Intrigued, Jaden headed straight to the research center. When he arrived, he found Catherine, now with slightly graying hair, but still the same energy and determination, waiting for him at the entrance. "What happened?" he asked as they hurried down the hall. "A community in rural Louisiana is facing a severe poisoning outbreak. Authorities suspect groundwater contamination from mercury in illegal mining operations," Catherine explained. "Over 30 children are hospitalized, and conventional treatments aren't working as expected." "But EthnoHeal should work in these cases," Jaden said, confused. "That's the problem. Doctors are using the standard medication, but the children are showing symptom variations we've never seen before. The local team sent samples, and initial results suggest there might be other contaminants involved, possibly a combination of mercury with unidentified elements." When they reached the main lab, Jaden found Emma, now an 18-year-old biomedical student, hunched over a microscope analyzing samples. "Jay, thank goodness you're here," she exclaimed, standing to greet him. "I've never seen anything like this. It's like the mercury bonded with some organic compound we haven't catalogued yet." Jaden examined the samples and preliminary data. After hours of intense analysis, he stood up from the workbench with a thoughtful look. "This reminds me of something my grandmother once mentioned. She talked about a poison that changes when it comes into contact with certain plants from the Amazon region," he said. "I always thought it was just a way to explain varying symptoms, but now I see there might be a scientific basis for it." "What do you suggest?" Dr. Bennett asked, joining the group. "We need to adapt the EthnoHeal formula." "And I think I know which components to add," replied Jaden. "But ideally, we should go to Louisiana in person to collect fresh plants and better understand the environmental context." Catherine didn't hesitate. "I'll arrange everything. You can leave tomorrow." The next day, Jaden, Emma, and a small team of researchers boarded a plane to Baton Rouge. From there, they traveled by boat to a riverside community where the most severe cases were concentrated. Upon arrival, they were met with a mix of suspicion and hope. The community had been abandoned by authorities for years, and now that the problem had worsened, they felt like test subjects for doctors and scientists arriving from the capital. During the first meeting with local leaders and healthcare workers, an elderly man remained silent in the corner of the room, watching intently. As everyone began to disperse, he approached Jaden. "You remind me of someone," the man said, studying the young doctor's face. "Who?" asked Jaden, curious. "Grandma Ruth from Appalachia. I met her at a gathering of traditional healers many years ago." Jaden felt a shiver run down his spine. "Grandma Ruth was my grandmother," he revealed, moved. The old healer smiled, revealing teeth yellowed by time. "I knew it. You have the same look in your eyes, attentive to details others miss. Your grandmother was special. She understood that plants aren't just medicine, they're messengers from the earth." In the days that followed, Jaden worked tirelessly with Mr. Clarence, the local healer, combining his scientific knowledge with the old man's traditional wisdom. Together, they identified local plants that could enhance the effects of EthnoHeal and counteract the abnormal behavior of the modified mercury. Meanwhile, Emma coordinated the analysis of water, soil, and plant samples, establishing correlations between contamination levels and the distribution of the most severe cases. After a week of intense work, the team developed a modified version of the medicine, incorporating extracts of Amazonian plants. Initial lab tests showed promising results. "It's time to test it on a real patient," Jaden announced during a meeting with the local medical team. with the parents' consent, of course. Dr. Rachel Cooper, the physician in charge of the pediatric ward, expressed concern. "I understand the urgency, but we're talking about an experimental treatment. There are protocols to follow, approvals needed. While we wait for bureaucracy, children are suffering," Jaden argued. "We're not proposing anything radical. EthnoHeal is already approved. We're just adapting it for this specific situation with low-toxicity natural components." After intense debate, they decided to test the new compound on a particularly severe case. Tyler, a 7-year-old boy, who hadn't responded to conventional treatment and whose parents had consented to the experimental procedure. The next morning, with Jaden, Emma, the local medical team, and Mr. Clarence present, the new medicine was administered for the first time. The following hours were filled with apprehension and constant monitoring. By evening, Tyler showed the first signs of improvement. His fever broke, and the toxicity levels in his blood began to gradually decrease. "It's working," Emma exclaimed, analyzing the new results. Over the next 72 hours, Tyler's recovery surprised even the most skeptical. The improvement was so significant that the team received emergency authorization to treat the other children. As the situation stabilized, Jaden and Emma investigated the source of the contamination. Their findings led them to an illegal mining operation at the headwaters of the river supplying the community. With the help of environmental activists and the press, they pressured authorities to take effective measures to shut it down. During their stay, Jaden and Mr. Clarence spent long hours together, exchanging knowledge. The old healer shared ancestral wisdom about Amazonian plants, while Jaden explained the scientific mechanisms behind traditional treatments. "Your grandmother would be proud," Mr. Clarence remarked one evening as they prepared more medicine. "She always said that one day, white medicine and our medicine would meet like two rivers becoming one." Jaden smiled, touched by the memory of his grandmother. "She also said knowledge is like water. It must flow freely to avoid stagnation." A month later, when all the children had recovered and a water filtration system had been installed in the community, it was time to return to New York City. On the eve of their departure, the community organized a gratitude ceremony, where each family presented a small gift to the plant doctor, as they had nicknamed Jaden. During the celebration, Mr. Clarence handed Jaden a small bundle wrapped in leaves. "These are seeds from the plants we used in the medicine. They don't grow in the southeast, but with special care, perhaps they will. It's important this knowledge doesn't stay only here." Moved, Jaden accepted the gift, promising to create a seed bank at the research center. On the flight back, while Emma slept in the seat beside him, Jaden reflected on the journey that had begun 10 years earlier, when he, a simple street kid, had burst into a hospital room to save a wealthy girl. Fate had intertwined their lives in a way no one could have predicted, creating a partnership that now benefited people across the country. Upon returning to New York City, Jaden and Emma were greeted with enthusiasm at the research center. Their success in Louisiana had caught the attention of national and international media, highlighting not only the treatment's effectiveness, but also the collaborative model between scientific knowledge and traditional wisdom. The Department of Health reached out, interested in establishing a national protocol for similar cases and expanding production of the modified medicine. Universities from various countries proposed partnerships for joint research. Amid all this attention, Jaden finally graduated from medical school. During the graduation ceremony, when called to receive his diploma, he was surprised by a standing ovation from everyone present. His classmates, professors, and especially the patients he had treated over the years recognized not only his academic competence, but also his humanity and commitment to integrative medicine. Catherine, watching the ceremony with tears in her eyes, remembered the scruffy boy who had appeared at the hospital 10 years earlier, defying all protocols and prejudices to save her daughter. Who could have imagined that unlikely meeting would change so many lives? After graduation, as they celebrated with an intimate dinner at Catherine's home, Jaden made a surprising announcement. "I've been invited to lead a new department, of integrative medicine at NYU School of Medicine," he said, still seeming to disbelieve it. They want to establish a program combining traditional knowledge with modern medicine, with an emphasis on indigenous and traditional community wisdom. Everyone cheered enthusiastically at the news. And the best part, he continued, is that the program will include scholarships for students from traditional communities. We'll train a new generation of doctors who respect and value ancestral knowledge. Emma, who had recently decided to shift her studies to medical anthropology to complement her biomedical training, was radiant. This will revolutionize American medicine. Imagine how many Jadens are out there with valuable knowledge that never had the chance to be formally developed. That evening, with the house full of friends, colleagues, and collaborators, Jaden and Emma found a quiet moment in the garden. Sitting under a yellow ipé tree they had planted years earlier, they reminisced about the journey they had shared. "Remember when we met in the park?" Emma asked, leaning against her friend's shoulder. "I had just changed schools and hadn't made any friends yet. You were the first person who talked to me without caring about who I was or how much money my mom had. And you were the first rich person who treated me like a human being, not like I was invisible or a threat," Jaden replied, smiling at the memory. Funny how kids see beyond the barriers adults create. Emma fell silent for a moment, thoughtful. What amazes me most about this whole story is how small choices can have huge impacts. If I hadn't decided to talk to you that day, if you hadn't gone into the hospital even knowing you might be thrown out, if your mom hadn't listened to me instead of just calling security, Jaden added. Exactly. So many moments where everything could have been different. Jaden picked up a small seed that had fallen from the ipé tree and rolled it between his fingers. Like this seed. So tiny, but with the potential to become this enormous tree. Our choices are like that. Inside the house, Catherine watched, the two through the glass door leading to the garden. Her heart overflowed with gratitude and admiration. When she had almost lost Emma, she could never have imagined that tragedy would become the start of something so meaningful and far-reaching. Sarah, now the nursing director of the foundation, approached with 2 glasses of wine. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, handing one to Catherine. "How life takes unexpected turns," Catherine replied, accepting the drink. "I remember my despair during those days in the hospital, feeling like I had failed as a mother, that I had put my career above my daughter's safety. And now? Now I see that moment, as painful as it was a turning point. Not only did we save Emma, but we also turned our pain into purpose. How many lives have been saved? Since then, how many communities have been helped?" Sarah smiled, watching Jaden and Emma talking quietly in the garden. "You know what amazes me the most? How they're still the same deep down. Jaden still has that quiet determination, that conviction he can make a difference. And Emma still has the same openness, the same ability to see value in people no matter where they come from. Some fundamental things don't change," Catherine agreed, "and I think that's what brought them together from the start. The ability to look beyond appearances, to recognize the worth in each other." The party went on late into the night, filled with stories, laughter, and plans for the future. Among the guests were renowned doctors and traditional healers alike, a reflection of the bridge Jaden and the Williams Foundation had built between worlds that once rarely spoke to each other. The following week would mark the official opening of the Department of Integrative Medicine at NYU, attended by academic leaders, representatives from the Department of Health, and leaders of traditional communities. Jaden, as coordinator, was nervous but confident. On the morning of the ceremony, he received an unexpected package. Inside, he found a small vial of seeds, along with a handwritten letter. "Dear Dr. Jaden, these are seeds from the sacred tree of our village. We say it heals not just the body, but also the divided spirit. We plant one when someone in the tribe needs to find their way. I heard your story. How a boy from the streets saved a wealthy girl, and together you're healing the divide between white medicine and the wisdom of the forest peoples. Our sacred tree belongs to this new garden you're planting. I hope you'll visit us to meet our healers and the plants we've used for thousands of years. With respect, Chief Running Bear, Lakota Reservation." Jaden showed the letter to Emma, and Catherine, deeply moved. Recognition from a traditional indigenous community meant more to him than all the academic degrees and honors he'd ever received. "See," said Emma, smiling, "your work is creating ever-widening circles, from the streets of New York City to villages in the Amazon." During the inauguration ceremony, Jaden surprised everyone by inviting Mr. Clarence and other traditional healers to join him on stage. In his speech, he emphasized that the new department wasn't just about studying traditional knowledge from a scientific perspective, but about establishing a true dialogue between different yet equally valuable systems of wisdom. "When I was 12, he told the attentive audience, "I broke into a hospital to help a girl I barely knew, armed only with the knowledge my grandmother had passed down to me about medicinal herbs. I had no degree, no status, not even a decent pair of shoes, but I had something as powerful as any academic title. Knowledge passed down through generations, tested and refined by time." He paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. "Today we're planting the seed of a new way of practicing medicine in the United States. A medicine that doesn't reject the microscope or the ancestral wisdom of traditional communities. A medicine that recognizes healing can come from both the most advanced lab and the oldest forest. A truly American medicine, reflecting the diversity and richness of our people." At the end of the ceremony, in a symbolic gesture, Jaden, Emma, Catherine, and representatives from traditional communities planted the seeds sent by the Lakota chief in the university garden, establishing a living bond between academia and ancestral wisdom. As the small sapling was carefully placed in the soil, Jaden couldn't help but think of his own journey. Like that seed, he had grown in unlikely circumstances, nurtured by his grandmother's knowledge and the opportunity that had arisen in a moment of crisis. The path that had begun with a street boy saying, "I know how to save your daughter," to a desperate businesswoman had become a movement, now saving lives across the country and redefining the relationship between traditional knowledge and modern medicine. That night, returning to his apartment, Jaden found an old faded photograph on his table, one he hadn't seen in years. In it, an elderly, dark-skinned woman smiled gently, holding medicinal plants in a simple backyard. His grandmother, Grandma Ruth. Beside the photo, a note in his Aunt Brenda's familiar handwriting. "Found this tucked away. Thought you might like to have it today. She would be so proud of the man you've become." Jaden picked up the photo carefully, feeling tears well in his eyes. All the knowledge now recognized in universities and hospitals worldwide had started there, in that humble backyard, passed from a loving grandmother to a listening grandson. "We did it, Grandma," he whispered to the photograph. "Your knowledge is saving lives and opening doors you never imagined." End of story. And you, dear listener, what did you think of this story of perseverance and unity between traditional wisdom and modern science? If this narrative touched your heart, leave, like, share it with friends, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Your opinion is very important to us.